Hello everybody, Brandon here coming to you again. And so my daughter and I did a fun little project a few months ago with a nice little galaxy scene that we painted on canvas, so I thought I would give one a go here for the channel. So this is a walkthrough tutorial of this galaxy scene that I did with oil paints. If you want to have a look at how we get this done, let's go now. Alright, I have an 8x10 canvas that I'm going to be working on. Obviously you can pick whatever size canvas you want. I'm using this size here, mostly just for the time consumption here for the video, so it'll go a little bit faster, but you could obviously paint this thing as big as you wanted. I'm using 4 brushes for this mainly, a 1-inch brush just for some big coverage, a little 1/2-inch kind of wash brush, a small round brush, and a liner brush is all I'm going to be using for this. And my colors are pretty limited here. I'm going to be using oil paints this time. If you watch much of my channel, you see I use a lot of acrylics, but for this, to be able to move these colors around and keep them wet and blend, I'm going to be using oil paints. So you're going to need some titanium white, you're going to need a black. Phthalo Blue is what I'm using, but just about any kind of blue would probably work. I'm using Phthalo Blue, a medium red value. If you want to keep things interesting, you can add some kind of brown in here, maybe something like an alizarin crimson or something like that. But anyway, let's get started with this. I have painted this canvas with black gesso, just turn it black. And the first thing I'm going to do now is cover almost the entire canvas, or I may just cover the whole thing, with Phthalo Blue using this 1-inch brush. So I'm coming in here with my Phthalo Blue. And I'm going to blend it and smear it all around this canvas. I'm basically using Phthalo Blue in this instance, kind of like putting down a liquid clear or liquid white onto this canvas that we're going to be using as a base to blend most of our other stuff with. I'm just choosing to use Phthalo Blue instead because most of the colors I use for a galaxy project, you're going to have a lot of blues out here anyway, but you're going to have some reds and some purples and things, all of which you can create nice options with the blue already on the canvas mixing with it. So it keeps it nice and dark to start with the black gesso, as opposed to just putting this Phthalo Blue on a white canvas. Alright, now that I've got a pretty good base of Phthalo Blue on there, I'm going to move into some black and just pick out some random areas that I want to darken up some. Just some spots that we want to go with a real deep space look. Just bring black in there and blend it in, darken that area. maybe some more over here. Now I'm going to switch to my smaller little 1/2-inch wash brush here, and we're going to start lightening some things up and bringing in some character here. So I'm going to go into a little bit of just plain old titanium white here, just a little bit on the end of the brush, and I'm going to come in here in an area that's mostly got that blue background to it and just start touching some of that white in there. You see immediately it starts to react, obviously, with the blue that's on the canvas. And I'm just going to fade a little bit of that around, see how that looks. Now, what we want is a mix of brighter areas with then some faded stuff around it that's not as bright. And so you don't want to make it necessarily all uniform. But I want everything to be fairly soft, so I'm just kind of lightly touching and blending, leaving some focal points of a little bit brighter stuff in some areas. Main thing is to keep your edges nice and soft. And you can be completely random with the places you're putting this stuff. I mean, I'm just kind of touching some stuff and going with it. I don't have anything in particular here that I'm doing specifically pattern-wise. The areas that I put most of the black in, though, I'm going to leave some of that really nice and dark. Alright, now to make some things a little different, let's just go straight into, with that brush, a touch of medium red value, along with a little tiny bit of that white. And let's come over here somewhere on the edge of this dark and touch that in a couple of places. Now that red hitting on that blue darkens things down to a real deep purplish color. Might not even be easy to pick up on camera, but it kind of has a dark purplish kind of brown color to it that looks like a real deep space, interesting kind of color. In fact, I'm just going to add some brown to that while I'm at it now, and just drop some brown into some of this black along with some of that red. I like to do this kind of on the edges of where my darkest stuff is. And once I've touched it in there, again, I try to soften it up a little bit. Kind of blend out the edges of it. Maybe leaving a little bit of that red just kind of showing in there. Now I've cleaned that brush off, I'm going to go back into just plain old titanium white again and continue to lighten up some areas inside of this yet again. Touching a few bright places inside of where we already have some color. But I want to create some focal points. And now again, softening it up just a tad. I'm just randomly touching a little bit of this white that's still left on my brush out there again. Now I'm going to go back into mostly white with just a hint of red into it, pinking it out a little bit. I'm going to bring this pink value in here. And I don't want to take all of it away and blend it just yet. I'm just touching it on there and softening the edges a little bit. Just kind of dabbing it in. I'm going to move to my smaller round brush now, and if you've got something like a crimson, we'll put a touch of that in with some white, just to change that value up a little bit. And if you make kind of a glob in the middle where you touch it in and then just kind of fade those edges out a little bit, it looks like a little cluster of some kind of stars out there. It has a little glow going on around it. And I'm going to do that in a few other places where I'm touching in. This is mostly crimson with some white. I'm going to dot it in some places and then come back and kind of soften the edges of it. I'm going to go back to my wash brush and grab some of the edges of those places that I dotted that in and just soften them out. And I'm leaving some of the stuff in the middle of that the way it is. I'm just touching around the edges of it. All right, now at this point, you know, I've got some areas that are still kind of dark and a little uninteresting, I guess you could say. So I'm going to change that up a little bit, but not drastically. So I'm going to go, maybe I'm going to go into that crimson a little bit, touch of white with it, and come in here and make a few places in this really deep dark stuff that's just not quite so uniform. I like that pretty good. I'm going to go back into my white again. And a little bit of red with it. Just add a few more places of bright stuff. There's a pretty big blob there. We'll have to do some blending on that for sure. Few touches on the end of this, just some stuff that looks like it's way off in the distance. Now we'll go back with our wash brush for some blending again. Again, I'm not knocking down all of my little focal points of light there, just some of them around the edges. Kind of tapping the end of this wash brush gives me a pretty nice little starry effect for way off in the distance as well. I'm going to go back into white and a little bit of that crimson And just kind of tap that color in some of these edges with the end of this wash brush. And I'm just lightly touching the canvas here, leaving what's almost like a spongy looking effect. And you can do this for as much as you want or as little as you want. It's your galaxy. You do whatever you want to do. Makes you happy with it. I kind of like this color, so I'm bringing it in a lot of places. But again, I'm just tapping it and touching it on there, creating kind of a spongy looking texture to it. I'm kind of loosely following around some of my areas that are already there of color and brightness. Into this really deep dark area here, though, I'll kind of fade those away a little bit to make it look like it's disappearing into the distance. Now with my little round brush, I'm going to go right into white and kind of get a little glob on the end. Create a couple of places of where a bright star is shining out. So I'm going to touch a glob in right in here where it looks like we've got something going on. And then maybe right down in here. Anywhere where I appear to have like a focal point of brighter stuff. we'll put a little touch of white in there in that area just to make it appear that there is indeed a slightly larger, maybe brighter star shining out in that area. And then in a few places we'll put in like a little halo type circular area with it, and then come back in with pure white and dot it in the middle. Kind of like that. Now in a few places I'm just going to take this white and just kind of drag it in where we don't fade it and blend it out quite so much, creating some kind of little interesting bright streaks through here. And who knows what's going on, but if you look at pictures of galaxies and things, you see stuff like this just kind of randomly in there. And then maybe I'll soften the edges of that just a little. Now I think we just need to add maybe a couple of more glowing kind of star areas. So let's put one there, maybe one there, one in there somewhere, here, one or two in there. And some of these I'm going to kind of, again, make like a little halo area, or I fade that out a little bit in a circle, and then come back in with a dot of white. Kind of right in the middle of our little halos. The last thing we got to do is basically splatter the rest of our white stars on there by getting some really thin white on here and flicking the brush at it. So we're going to thin it down a good bit with some paint thinner and get kind of an ink-like consistency, and then we're going to flick it at the canvas to complete the deal. Now to start this, I'm using my little round brush. It's got some pretty stiff little bristles in it, and I have gone into straight up titanium white. It had just a hint of that red left on this brush before I thinned it down, so this is kind of a really, really light pink. It doesn't have to be pure white that I'm going to start with. And then just flick that at the canvas in a few places, creating a nice little misty star effect to start with. Now I'm going to go back into just more white this time. Come back at it again with brighter white and really cluster it in around some of my focal points. And literally, the more times you flick it in an area, obviously the more stars you will get. And so here now is going to be my finished starry galaxy scene. You zoom in here, you can see all of that going on that I've got with those paint flicks. My different colors that's going on in here. You can see the different areas of color that I put in. Some of those reds off in the deep space. The pinks, the blues. The bright areas of focal points. Hope you guys enjoyed painting along with that one, and that you've got a galaxy scene that you're happy with. Until next time, happy painting, everybody.